Hey there everybody, what's up? Kevin here from the My Song of the Day Rock 2000 Today YouTube channel. And today I get to review one of the biggest, if not the biggest comeback album here in the year 2020. And this is some fantastic news that this album came out just recently. This is our review of the comeback self-titled album from The Ghost Inside. So before I jump in my review of the Ghost Inside self-titled album, please follow My Song of the Day Rock 2008 on social media on places like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Very easy to talk to us. We engage with you a lot with different posts, IGTV videos, Instagram live streams every Wednesday night, and the Song of the Day selection, which is probably the most important thing because it gets to connect with all the music you love, are going to love, and are going to fall in love with once again. Please also subscribe to this YouTube channel as well for all the album reviews, the Kevin Tries to Figure Out videos, which I absolutely love to do, and a bunch of other videos, including the Chord Progression Podcast. So please follow the Chord Progression Podcast here on the My Song of the Day Rock 2008 Facebook page. You can also subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. On that podcast, we are interviewing the bands I see as the emerging bands in the scene and about to break out and become huge, especially after this pandemic is over. So go listen there to all our episodes. Come out every single Tuesday, some special Thursday ones as well. But enough with that, let's get on into it. So a little bit of a background on the Ghost Inside up to this point. Their last album, Dear Youth, came out in November of 2014 and peaked at number 63 on the US chart. So, they were gaining some steam up until 2015. However, on November 19th, 2015, the band was involved in a bus crash while traveling to Mesa, Arizona on US Highway 80 just outside of El Paso, Texas, where their bus collided with a tractor with both the tractor operator and the bus driver killed in that accident, with 10 people on the bus unfortunately hurt as well. And lead singer Andrew Vigil and drummer Andrew Tkazik, I hope I said that right, were both critically injured at that point. Andrew, the drummer, had to lose his leg in the process. And the band was also announced to play at Warped Tour 2017 early in 2016. However, they had to bow out of that due to complications still from the bus crash and still trying to recover. In February of 2019, the band announced they were going to be playing a one-off show at the Shrine in Los Angeles on July 13th, I believe it was. Yes, it was July 13th. Just checked my notes. And the band was going to play inside, but because of the demand for tickets and how many people wanted to see, they ended up playing outside of like a festival-style setting so more people could watch and see the return of the band. And even with the loss of Andrew's leg, his dad ended up helping him build a contraption to allow him to play drums with only one leg and do everything that he needed to do. After the show, Jonathan Vigil said that he was not sure if that was going to be the band's last show or the band was going to play 100 more. They did plan to play some one-off shows, not to tour though, but of course that got put on hold with COVID-19 happening. However, on April 22nd, it was announced that the Ghost Inside self-titled album would come out on June 5th and the release of the lead single, Aftermath. And after I heard Aftermath, my God, I knew exactly I had to review this album. This was going to be a gigantic album I had to review and I couldn't wait for it. And fun fact, Fit for an Autopsy's Will Putney and Jerry McKinnon from A Day to Remember also helped produce this album, so that's just a fun fact. Let's get into it. So we're going to start out with the composition, construction, instrumentation on this album, and taking a look at it, it really lies heavily in the melodic metalcore and then hardcore metalcore style. However, that's really the Ghost Inside style, so when they're going to come with a comeback album, a self-titled album, and they're going to just stick to that sound, it does make sense. It's going to get the fans that really love the band what they wanted. When listening to the album, there were times that melodic style and that hardcore style really mixed in incredibly well, and I really did like it. And the reason I liked it was because if they're going to go with that super fast hardcore style, yeah, they were going to keep that up for a long time just because it requires a lot of energy. So when they really do a good job in mixing that more melodic metalcore style and hardcore metalcore style mixing with the pace, if they did a really good job on that, I was really down with it and I really liked it. So yeah, there was parts I really liked about this album. So let's take a look at a couple examples where that contrast between the melodic style and the hardcore style really worked out well. Take a look at a song like Still Alive, where it was consistently fast and hardcore pace and really driven, especially in the chorus throughout the whole entire song, but you get to the breakdown and it's incredibly melodic throughout the whole entire thing, and just the contrast that works out really well in my opinion. Take a look at a song like The Outcast, where it kept the melodic style, but varying the pace and the tone of the song really kept me in it throughout the whole entire thing. And then a song like Overexposure with the consistent pace and melody changes, yeah, it worked out really well well in contrast with that melodic style and that hardcore style that the Ghost Inside can bring. However, there was really only one time that I thought this album, especially in the construction, composition, instrumentation, really fell flat, and that was in the song Unseen. The reason I thought that was because there's a long 2-minute Tool-like style intro that really just kind of goes super melodic throughout the whole entire thing. Then the rest of the song is real melodic through and through. I wanted to see a little bit more of a mixture on that one because I thought it could have brought a lot of power to the song, but then again, I just was the only real blemish I saw with the construction that didn't really balance out the hardcore and melodic style very well. However, Aftermath is the absolute perfection of all this because Aftermath has this whole entire melodic sense throughout the whole entire thing. But you listen to the verses and the chorus and they have this driving hardcore pace to them that really has that hardcore style to it. And then you get to the breakdown and it's hard, it's heavy, but it's also melodic. You get to the bridge where Jonathan sings clean, which we'll get to in a bit, and it really pulls that melodic sense into it. And as the song outros, the melodic sense really does amp up, and they blend them all so well. So this song is like the perfect example of them blending the hardcore and melodic style. Overall, I really did like the composition, construction, instrumentation on this album because they really put off that hardcore metalcore and melodic metalcore style very well in contrast with each other. There were a couple of times when they went really heavily on the melodic style that I thought it was rather bland in my opinion and a little bit more monotonous. However, that was just a small fraction of it. Overall, that blend of melodic and hardcore metalcore style and the contrast they used with it and the instrumentation, that was well done. So now take a look at the vocal performance and through Jonathan Vigil as well, and I gotta say I'm a little bit mixed on it. Let's start out with Jonathan Vigil's vocals primarily first, as he sticks with this unclean vocal sense throughout the entire album. And when I took a look at it, I thought fans of the Ghost Inside are really going to like this because that's what they're consistently known for doing, and it shows that not only that the band is back, but Jonathan's power as a vocalist is still there as well. So in the end, I did think it was a good move to go that route. So where I thought this worked out well was when there were songs that were more dynamic in pace and tone, and just with the vocal presence that Jonathan Vigil had in varying that as well. So what I'm talking about is when he varied the roughness in his unclean vocals, or when he varied the pacing of his vocals as well to really match the instrumentation needed at that point. When he brought in more dynamics with it, I thought it was done really well. Take a look at something like the varying pace on the song Make or Break. I really did like what they did here. And then the varying degrees of roughness in the unclean vocals on a song like Overexposed. I really do like what they do on something like there, and then all of Aftermath, which we'll get to in a bit because that's something in itself. However, where I didn't think those unclean vocals really worked is when they were rather flatlined. So what I mean by that is the unclean vocal style that was brought in right at the beginning of the song was not going to change in pace, roughness, or anything. It really brought out the monotony of the song and really added to the monotony that the instrumentation was on some of those songs. So take a look at a song like The Outcast, where I did like this song at points, but the vocals had this very monotonous feel outside of the core, especially in the verses. And take a look at a song like Unseen, that was rather flatlined, so I'm like, not really, no. However, on the chorus of some of these songs, they did mix clean and unclean vocals with unclean vocals from Jonathan Vigil and clean vocals from other members of the band underlayering it. And I thought this was a fantastic move in the end because with what the melodic and hardcore instrumentation was calling for in these songs, at points I really did want to see some clean vocals in there, and they found a way to mix the clean and unclean at the same time and really make it work out well. So take a look at a song like Still Alive, where there is back chanting from the rest of the band that's clean in the pre-chorus and in the chorus as well, which underlayer Jonathan Vigil's vocals incredibly well. Take a look at the song Overexposure, where they match up perfectly on equal weight, and it just really does hit well. And the melodic style fitting in a song like Phoenix Rising, it really does work out there, so I was really impressed with this. However, let's get to Aftermath, because everything on this vocal performance from Jonathan Vigil is absolutely perfect, where you listen to the choruses and the verses, and he uses the unclean vocals to his advantage and varies the pace and the roughness of them throughout the whole entire thing. I thought it was fantastic. Then you get to the bridge and he sings clean. I mean, take a look at Jake Lur's reaction to it, August Burns Red. And when Jonathan Vigil goes with the clean vocals in the bridge, Jake is just blown away by how well this works, and I was blown away by it as well. And then the outro, they mix the clean, the unclean vocals from Jonathan at the same time, and I'm like, this is incredible. Listening to it, this was the perfect single to start this out, and this is the perfect way to go about it. So overall, vocal performance, I was rather impressed by this. There were times where I wasn't, but primarily going with unclean vocals from Jonathan Vigil was the way to go. When you take a look at, sometimes it was monotonous when they just kind of flatlined, but when they really varied the dynamics of it, it worked out well. The choruses, when they underlayered it with clean vocals, it really did work out well, and Aftermath is a whole nother animal in itself of greatness. This is just well done. So now let's go into the themes and styles of songs and how they work with each other here on the Ghost Side Self-Titled album. And taking a look at the album and the themes and the meanings, I love the way the album is constructed from top to bottom and how it's placed together, because the meanings all go from when the bus crash happened to your immediate thoughts after that as a band, what's going on, what's going to happen, and then they go through all the trials and tribulations of getting through that, and then end it with Aftermath, which just shows like a whole entire retrospective on what they went through and really kind of just taking a look at what they all went through and really kind of summarize it in a way. So take a look at a song like Still Alive, where you're talking about working to come back after that crash. A song like Make or Break, where you're talking about hitting rock bottom and deciding that, you know, either I'm going to pull myself out of this or I'm going to falter and just kind of go somewhere else. And then Phoenix Rising, working hard to try to get that back. And then the Summer Revolve and Aftermath, just perfect placement from top to bottom. You really hear the whole entire story from the Ghost Inside from top to bottom. And when it comes to how these themes mix in with the song stylings, I think that the Ghost Inside really just honing in on their craft and perfecting it and perfecting their sound was the way to go on this, because this is them telling their own story. This is them telling what happened over the past 4.5 years since that bus crash. And they really did a good job with it. I think playing off of their own style really worked out well. Take a look at an example like Sleeping with Sirens with How It Feels to Be Lost. They went back to their own style to tell Kellen Quinn's story from Gossip. It did work out incredibly well, and this is the exact same type of style, and I really do like it. Kerrang's interview said that a lot of new fans probably won't be game through this album, but a lot of old fans will absolutely love it and go through it, and I gotta agree with Kerrang on that one. I think they were dead right. So now it's time for my overall rating on the Ghost Inside Self-Titled album, and that is... I'm going to give the Ghost Inside's comeback self-titled album a 7.5 out of 10. So 7.5 out of 10 for the Ghost Inside self-titled album and their comeback album. So let's take a look at what I like about this album. When it comes down to it, I love the themes of this album and how the album was constructed in terms of playlist, because, or track list I should say. And the reason is because it really tells the whole entire story from the Ghost Inside's perspective about the bus crash and what it took to come back, restart, and make this album. I love it how it tells the story from top to bottom and then concludes it with Aftermath to summarize the whole entire thing. It's done incredibly well, and I absolutely love how it tells that story. One of the things I liked about it was when they went with the choruses and mixed some of those clean vocals with unclean vocals as well. After hearing Aftermath at the beginning and hearing Jonathan Vigil doing the clean vocals by himself, I was hoping we'd get something more like that. And we got something a little bit different but just equally as powerful, where during some of the choruses, like on songs like Still Alive, Make or Break, and Overexposed, what they did was they took these clean vocals from the other members of the band and layered them underneath Jonathan Vigil's unclean vocals. So you really brought both sides of the story in there and let Jonathan Vigil play on his strongest point with the unclean vocals. And in the end, what I really liked is because it played that contrast game so well and gave me something that I absolutely wanted, whilst giving the rest of the hardcore Ghost Inside fans what they wanted, especially when it came to the unclean vocals from Jonathan Vigil and making a little bit more clean vocals in there as well. It worked out incredibly well, and I loved how it added so much more dynamic to each song. A couple of things I liked about this album was when you look at the songs, how they're constructed, the breakdowns were never in a consistent place, and I absolutely love the randomness of it. So what I mean by that is the breakdowns never went from verse, chorus, bridge, breakdown, chorus, and it never really followed that mantra. What the Ghost Inside did was they put the breakdowns in different spots, where they put the breakdown right after the first chorus and Aftermath. They put it in other different places as well. They never really kept it in the same exact place, and I love it because it adds so much more variety, so much more diversity, so much more dimensions to their music. Absolutely love it. But then take a look at a song like Phoenix Rising, where the bridge is incredibly calm and just builds up, and it starts out low. It just feels like you're building up, and it builds up, and it's a lot cleaner than what the Ghost I would really go with, but it really gives you that rising from the ashes feeling. And giving a song like calling Phoenix Rising, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. And then of course I have to mention Aftermath in this one because I remember hearing this song as a single and I was absolutely blown away by it through its construction, its sound, the use of clean vocals from Jonathan Vigil. Everything about it is completely constructed in a perfect light and really shows that the band has come back and they are back and they're ready to go. I mean, this is going to end up being on the best song of the year list for 2020. It's going to be in the top 10. I don't know where it's going to land, but man, it's good. Now, of course, because I didn't give it, a 10 out of 10, there's got to be a couple things I dislike about this album. And there are two main points of things I dislike about this album, but they're not major. One is how the unclean vocals sounded monotonous at times. What I mean by that is, there were times where, unlike in Aftermath, I thought there were times where, with the unclean vocals primarily coming from Jonathan Vigil, we could have used some more clean vocals in there just to add a little bit more to it, just to add a little bit of a change up and get away from a potential monotonous style. There were one or two songs on this album I thought that could have used something like that. However, I did mention that in the choruses on some of these songs, they did bring in clean vocals and layered them underneath, Jonathan Vigil's vocals, which I thought was done really well. So this is just kind of being a little bit more nitpicky at my point, but I still think it's a valid point where I'm like, I could have seen one or two more, songs where you kind of isolated Jonathan Vigil's vocals clean like they did in the bridge on Aftermath, and would have brought a lot more promise, a lot more dynamics to those songs, which really would have bolstered up their profiles. One other piece I kind of have to nitpick on is there were times where I thought the heavy reliance on the melodic style really did kind of make it feel a little bit monotonous. And what I mean by that is there were songs in there where the band stuck so hard with that melodic metalcore style that it just ended up feeling a little bit monotonous to myself, and it kind of was like, you know what, I'm going to end up passing on some of these songs a little bit more. There were songs on this album, like one choice where you're going to take a look at that song, it has more of a hard rock vibe to it. It's really the black sheep of the album, and I do like it. And then of course Aftermath, which is just the most beautiful construction that the Ghost Inside I think has ever done up to this point. It's not something that I absolutely hate that they kind of stuck with that full-on melodic style in a lot of these songs, but at times, especially going through the album piece by piece and full-on through, it does get monotonous a little bit. So now time for my final thought, and this was one of those anticipated albums that everyone was waiting for to see if the Ghost Side was going to come back, and they did. When Aftermath dropped, I thought that was one of the best songs of 2020 so far, and we're only in June. I think it's going to end up on that list, potentially in the top 5 with its beautiful construction and everything that it has going on for it. As this album dropped and I went through the rest of it, there were times where I didn't like, necessarily how they went monotonous, sometimes with the unclean vocals, or with really fully focusing in on that melodic metalcore style. However, in the end, this album is a fantastic piece that I cannot wait to return to every now and again. And the reason for that is because the mixture between the unclean and clean vocals in some of these choruses really do work out well. When they vary the pacing and go more hardcore instead of melodic, it really does work out well. And the varying degrees of where the breakdowns are going to happen is a really good move. Plus, this tells an incredible story, and in the end, I mean, if you're looking for an album that you want to come back with, this is the album you want to come back with. So that's going to be it for me. I hope you guys like this review. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Tell me what you think. And this is Kevin from the My Song They Rock 2000 YouTube channel. You guys know I hand all these videos. Let's get the hat flip. I think I've caught that 2 times only, but whatever. See ya!